I had to get a hard laugh out before I started this video because this is the perfect picture to use for Tucker Carlson in pretty much any commentary that I would ever do about him, considering that this is a change of pace, or should I say a change of face as in facial expression, because every time I do see him, he usually looks like a deer caught in the headlights. But this story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, and shout out to that individual. They know exactly who they are, where Tucker Carlson apparently does not know the difference. He knows the difference, but he being rhetorical here. He doesn't know apparently the difference between peaceful and violent, because this dude, with all the videos that the world has seen, because this was a global thing as far as I'm concerned, what happened on January 6th was far from peaceful. That was a very violent event. It was very violent going into it, and then it was very violent in the outcome. But he's trying to say that this was a peaceful gathering. Like, these were his words. He claimed what happened on January 6, 2021, of people running up into the White House, breaking windows, defecating on the floors and the walls, and tearing stuff up, was a peaceful gathering. If this is what's considered peaceful to him, I'm curious to see what he would label as violent. Oh, I know what he would label as violent. Anything dealing with BLM. That would be considered violent, and we know why that is, because of the B, black. But because it was mainly white people out there, it was peaceful. I'm telling you, this guy tells on himself every single time. No need to get upset with what he says, because he's a one-trick pony. Everything that comes out of his mouth is just verbal vomit. I don't think this man has a truthful bone in his body. As a matter of fact, I don't even think he's truthful down to the bone marrow. But let me go ahead and read this article coming from NBC News. Fox Noose host Tucker Carlson on Monday released security video from the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, or as I call it, the invasion, using footage provided exclusively to him by Speaker Kevin McCarthy to portray the riot as a quote-unquote peaceful gathering. Carlson acquired the tapes as part of a deal from McCarthy to win the Speaker's gavel. When McCarthy was struggling to gather the votes to lead the House, Carlson used his program to list two concessions he could make to win over far-right Republicans. First, release the January 6 files, not some of the January 6 files and videos, all of it. Carlson, the most watched host on cable news, said after McCarthy faced 3 failed votes, so that the rest of us can finally know what actually happened on January 6, 2021. Why do they keep trying to make this thing cover it up as if it wasn't what it was? We saw with our own eyes what it was. We saw raw footage from people who had phones who was in there. There is no cover up here. We saw. Now, this is the part that pisses me off. Anybody who's been watching me for quite some time know that I have one major pet peeve. I have a couple of others, but this one really ticks me off. And that is insulting my intelligence. And that is exactly what Tucker Carlson knows how to do, is insult people's intelligence. That's why I try to steer clear of a lot of the stuff that he says. I actually do. I'll call some stuff out every now and then, but when he starts doing stuff like this, then it's like I have to take a tone shift in whatever it is I'm talking about to address that. That, what he just said, first off, saying it's a peaceful gathering, that's an insult to our intelligence, because that's far from what it was. And try to make it seem like what we saw that day did not happen, or it was some kind of a fluke or a loop, or somehow edited for whatever reason. That's another insult to my intelligence, and I don't like that. In the 2 months since McCarthy won the gavel, he has granted both. Carlson announced in late February that McCarthy had given him exclusive access to 44,000 hours of security video from the deadly riot before he unveiled some clips of the video on his show Monday night. Now listen to that, deadly riot. That doesn't sound like peaceful gathering. When we saw deadly riot, that's exactly what it looked like. And basically, that's what it was, because people did die. Carlson focused Monday's segment on promoting former President Donald Trump's narrative by showing video of his supporters walking calmly around the U.S. Capitol. He asserted that other media accounts lied about the attack, proclaiming that while there were some bad apples, most of the rioters were peaceful, and calling them quote unquote sightseers, not insurrectionists. Are you kidding me? Sightseers? I got a question. Everyone in here who's watching this video right now has done sightseeing. You toured the place, you looked around, you maybe took some pictures of the landscape, your surroundings, you maybe take some selfies, some videos. Not once did you go up into the place you were sightseeing and destroy it. Again, insulting our intelligence. The footage does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress. We must have been looking at two different things. That's what... See, this guy is grasping for straws just so it doesn't make the people of his ilk look bad. Too late for that. Those videos are going to be etched in history forever. The footage does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress, Carlson told his audience Monday. Instead, it shows police escorting people through the building, including the now infamous QAnon shaman. He continued, more than 44,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public, and once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video does not support claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. Tucker, it doesn't matter if you had 44 million hours of footage. What we saw on January 6, 2021 in real time, because it was live, what we saw, because it was everywhere. On CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, local news, it was everywhere. It was pretty much a media blackout, just focusing on that. When what we saw that day completely eclipses this 44,000 hours that you claim to have. I would like to see just a little bit of whatever it is he's talking about. This guy said 44,000 hours. I highly doubt Tucker Carlson actually spent and sat for 44,000 hours. Well, first off, that would be impossible to do. Unless you're doing a thorough investigation. If you're doing that, you would need way more people to help you with that. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. He's just talking for the sake of talking. Video that Carlson didn't air shows police and rioters engaged in hours of violent combat, which is what we saw, of course. Nearly 1,000 people have been charged in connection with the Capitol attack. About 140 officers were assaulted that day, and about 326 people have been charged with assaulting, resisting, or impeding officers or employees, including 106 assaults that happened with deadly or dangerous weapons. About 60 people pled guilty to assaulting law enforcement. 2 pipe bombs were also planted nearby, but were not detonated. Again, Tucker, can you please explain how this is a peaceful gathering? You need to bring a bomb to a peaceful gathering? Carlson also said on his show Monday that Democrats lied about the death of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick. He played video that he said shows Sicknick walking around inside the Capitol after the mob attacked him. They know he was not murdered by the mob, but they claimed it anyway, he said. Sicknick died of natural causes on January 7th, the day after he engaged with rioters outside of the Capitol. An autopsy report determined that he died of a stroke at the base of the brainstem caused by a blood clot, which most likely could have came from what happened the day before. I mean, it's too much of a coincidence. Capitol Police have said Sicknick returned to his office after the riot and collapsed. 2 men have been sentenced to prison for spraying him with a chemical irritant during the melee, and Sicknick's family has contended that the fighting with the rioters contributed directly to his stroke. McCarthy's controversial decision to hand over January 6th video to Carlson is a new twist for one of the most scrutinized events in American history, which has produced countless hours of social media video, a sweeping Justice Department criminal investigation, a House Select Committee probe, and a bipartisan impeachment of then President Donald Trump alleging incitement of insurrection. The videos released after 2 years on Fox News in primetime highlights the influence of Carlson, who has downplayed and promoted conspiracy theories about January 6th and the far right over the slim new House majority. Carlson also said at the top of his show Monday that Fox had checked with Capitol Police before it aired any video. Their reservations were minor, he said, saying Fox blurred a door inside the Capitol in response to the agency's request. U.S. Capitol Police is not commenting publicly on the security video released by Carlson, but a Capitol Hill source familiar with the matter told NBC News on Monday that the police thought there was an agreement with the Committee on House Administration, not with Carlson's show, that Capitol Police would be given the opportunity to review all the clips that Fox was planning to air Monday night. But the show only allowed the police to review one clip late this afternoon and then did not allow them to review any of the other clips. NBC News has reached out to the Committee on House Administration for comment. Carlson said he plans to air additional video on his show Tuesday night. The episode presents thorny politics for McCarthy, who, in releasing the video to Carlson, is reigniting a national debate over the failed insurrection that cost his party seats in the midterm election and looms over the 2024 presidential contest as Trump leads the GOP field in pursuit of a comeback. Electorally, it's not to their advantage to be on the side of insurrectionists, but hasn't stopped them before, said Senator Brian Schatz of Hawaii. McCarthy's actions have sparked criticism from members of both parties and demands the news outlets, including NBC News, for access to the video. Some lawmakers say the video could be taken out of context to create a false narrative of what happened that day. Others worry it could expose the identities of the police officers who defended the Capitol and subject them to harassment, much like that black cop that had to pop Ashley Babbitt. They was already mad that she got shot and killed, but when they found it was a black man, oh, them pitchforks went up even higher. And numerous Republicans say that security information should be protected and that all media should have equal access. Representative Benny Thompson, the former chairman of the January 6th committee, said in a statement after Monday's show that it was a dereliction of duty for Kevin McCarthy to give Tucker Carlson carte blanche access to sensitive U.S. Capitol security surveillance footage from one of the darkest days in the history of our democracy. Senator Mitt Romney of Utah said the video should have been reviewed to make sure that they would not be used in a way that could harm law enforcement before it was disclosed to anyone. I don't quite know what Speaker McCarthy had in mind. I think it's appropriate to provide information to the public generally and not just to one network. Interesting take. But we know why he went to Fox News with this, because it's Fox News. This is the same network that got exposed years ago for not being actual news, but yet they're still on the air. We know who they cater to. McCarthy defended his decision, saying that he had accounted for security concerns and that his office had worked with Capitol Police to ensure that security concerns were taken care of. He'll have an exclusive, then I'll give it out to the entire country, McCarthy said, adding that Carlson's team is not interested in showing sensitive security videos such as images of exit routes. We're working through that. We work with the Capitol Police as well, so we'll make sure security is taken care of. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said in a recent letter to colleagues that McCarthy's decision laid bare that the sham is simply about pandering to MAGA election deniers, accusing Carlson of using his platform to promote the big lie, distort reality, and espouse bogus conspiracy theories about January 6th. Some Republicans believe it is a mistake to reopen the January 6th discussion, particularly after Trump-backed elections deniers face midterm defeats up and down the ballot in swing states. So if they lose, can they blame this on Tucker Carlson and Kevin McCarthy? I hope they do. The 2022 election was a categorical rejection of election denialism. It cost Republicans the Senate and nearly kept them from winning back the House, said Republican strategist Ken Spain, a former aide of the GOP's House campaign arm. With a razor-thin majority, House Republicans can't waste a minute looking backward. Trump allies are looking for one thing on the video, and that is vindication. We heard for 2 years how incredibly important this January 6th committee was, how important all the evidence they collected was, and said Senator Josh Hawley, who mounted the first Senate objection to 2020 results that forced a vote, turning a sleepy ritual into a rallying point for Trump and his ardent followers. Let's see it. Let's see the whole video. My thing is this, even if you see the whole video, it's still not going to change what everyone else saw that day. It still doesn't take away the fact that that was an invasion. Like, they literally rioted at that Capitol, broke in, broke glass, defecated on the walls, on the floors, tore stuff up, ripped stuff out, threw stuff around. It's still not going to change the fact that they think that if they show this new footage that no one has seen, that's supposed to wipe out and erase what everybody has already seen. It's not going to change anything, but they would hope that it does. Hawley said that among the people at the Capitol, I think the overwhelming majority were peaceful. Of course, he would say that. But wait a minute, Hawley, weren't you the one doing track star runs across the hall? We saw that surveillance footage. You were sitting, like, literally running across the hall, hiding for your life. If it was so peaceful, why were you running and hiding? Like, who does that at a quote unquote peaceful gathering? My friends on the left are melting down about this. We can't have that. Well, why can't we? I thought it was critical that it all be put out there. What's on the tapes? I don't know, but I'm interested to see them, he said. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa said the January 6th security video should be made public, or at least made available for a congressional oversight, because that's a very dramatic thing that happened one day in our country's history. What's been investigated would be such a small percentage of it that a lot could be learned, he said. The release of some of the January 6th security video comes 2 years after the attack, in which Trump supporters violently breached the Capitol in an attempt to overturn his 2020 defeat. Trump, who on Monday night praised Carlson on Truth Social for airing the newly accessed footage, has persisted in his fabricated claims that the election was stolen from him, despite failing to produce evidence of substantial fraud. He also persisted in defending many of the rioters as patriots. In his letter to colleagues last month, Schumer warned that Carlson would use any clips from the riot to advance his own narrative. If the past is any indication, Tucker Carlson will select only clips that he can use to twist the facts to sow doubt of what happened on January 6th and feed into the propaganda he's already put on Fox Noose air, which, based on recent reports, he may not even believe himself, Schumer wrote. Yeah, Tucker Carlson, he's blowing a lot of hot air. That's basically all this is. He's blowing a lot of hot air right now, and he, like Chuck Schumer said, he's trying to push his own narrative. That's really all it boils down to. You know, Tucker Carlson would actually probably have a good career in politics, because the way he carries on every single day, he definitely would fit right on in over there, because that's all they do is lie, scheme, steal, and a bunch of other negative things that I can't even think of at the moment. And that's all he's been doing at his position over at Fox News since he's been there. I keep telling people I don't think this man has a true bone in his body. All he does is sit up there and lie and spread propaganda every single day on his show, and his audience eats it up. Remember, Bill O' Wife Beater used to be in that position. And you know, Tucker Carlson was like number 2. But he probably was counting down the days till O' Wife Beater was out of this so he could be the number 1 propaganda artist over at Fox News, the face of it. And like I said, keep in mind, Tucker Carlson never had to work hard for anything. He is the stepson to the daughter who is the heiress of Swanson broth. I always have to throw that in there because a lot of people don't know. And a lot of people use Swanson broth. So yeah, I'm not shocked, nor am I surprised by anything that Tucker Carlson says and tries to put out there. But the fact remains that we know what we all saw that day. So they can bring as many tapes as they want, but is that really going to change anything that occurred that day? No, it's not. Is this supposed to be some type of thing in order to get the people who's locked up right now released? I don't think so. Besides, many of them got slaps on the wrist anyway. So just do your little time and, you know, learn from this. If you even want to learn from what you did, because many of them don't feel that they did anything wrong. So it's like Tucker is going on a crusade to try to save them. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but yeah. But we all know that Tucker Carlson would not say any of what he's saying right now if this was BLM. I know I said it earlier, but I'm saying it again. Tucker Carlson would not have this same energy right now if this was BLM in that position. He would say, we don't need to look for any tapes to try to make it seem like it was a peaceful gathering, even though that would come across more peaceful than whatever it is they did on January 6th. But that's the stance he has, and that's the stance he always will have.